Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. September is rapidly approaching, and that means the start of the Wicca 101 classes is right around the corner. Now, as an effort to be helpful to try to make this class less intimidating for anyone who might be considering participating, I decided to come up with a list of a few helpful hints just to make it a little bit easier. Now, first, I would like to make it clear that the purpose of this class is twofold. One purpose is to acquaint the students with the fundamentals of Wiccan belief and practice just in general, so they have an idea broadly of what Wicca is. There are many different traditions within Wicca, and each tradition has its own take on things, but there are common core shared principles, beliefs, and practices, and that's what I'm going to try to convey. The second purpose is that there will be enough information presented in this class that any students will be able to make an educated decision about whether or not Wicca is really going to be the right thing for them, or if it's time for them to move on and explore another spiritual tradition. If you go through the Wicca class and you enjoyed it, but it's just not clicking for you, you think, it just isn't for me, that's still a good outcome. This isn't about conversion or trying to force people into a spiritual box. This is about trying to give people an idea of what Wicca is, so that they can make that choice for themselves, so that they can be one step closer on their journey to finding their spiritual home. And not everyone is going to have the same spiritual home. I reject the idea that there is one overarching true religion that everyone else needs to conform to. I think the divine is not only more complicated than we think it is, I think it's more complicated than we are currently capable of understanding. And the purpose of spirituality and religion should be to be a means for people to try to make that connection with the divine, and a framework for them to work in that has relevance for them. So, no pressure in anyone. It doesn't, there's nothing is being tied to the outcome of whether you like it, dislike it, decide to practice, or decide to do something else. This is informational, and if it's right for you, it will click, and you'll know where you need to be, and you can plan your next spiritual explorations from there. Second thing to keep in mind is that no one becomes Wiccan overnight. I do not care how much of a prodigy you are. I don't care how much of a natural you are. I don't know if you've been doing a lot of intellectual research for decades on end. You are not going to just go from interested person to full-fledged Wiccan at once. It's just not how it works. So try not to feel rushed. This is going to be a process, and by process I mean this is multi-year process. Many covens still have the custom of having people kind of hang out and be educated about their particular traditions for a year and a day before deciding whether or not to initiate them into the group. So this isn't something that you just do a few Google searches on. This isn't something that you see a few memes and you've got the gist and now you know. Take your time. You do have all the time in the world. So study, learn, practice, and then decide whether or not Wicca is right for you. Another thing is you don't have to learn everything all at once. There's a lot of core subjects that are fundamental to Wicca, and I understand how some people might feel driven to do so. When I began my studies, I certainly felt that way. I felt like, oh, gods, I'm 31 years old. I'm way, way behind. Uh, if I don't absorb everything at once, then I'll never get it, and I was in that tailspin for about the first 3 years. It drove me crazy, and I probably drove the people around me crazy. So far as what is possible for you, and everyone has their own human nature, but as far as what is possible for you, try not to go that route. Learn from my mistakes. A gradual course of study and gradual practice that gradually integrates Wicca into your life, that's going to lead to more retention of information, and it lays a sturdier spiritual foundation. So save your sanity. Don't do what I did. Third suggestion is to keep it simple. We're just going to focus on one concept at a time in the class. You don't need to have to do a whole lot of auxiliary research on other topics outside of that if you don't want to. I do have little daily tidbits that I post both in the MeWe group and in the Discord group, although I'm focusing more on the Discord group at this point. But this is just kind of for general information. Isn't that kind of interesting? Just kind of touching base with things, but it's not the same as, sitting down and having a serious course of study about, 10,000 different things. So you just focus on one thing at a time. It's better to understand that one thing thoroughly than to have a flawed and imperfect understanding of a zillion things. Being able to stand on firm ground will it'll help you. You'll be in much better shape. And you won't be having to go back later on and realizing, oh, I was completely wrong about 10,000 different things. That's not actually how this works. It's another one of those save your sanity issues. Let's see, suggestion number 4. What you put into the class will determine what you get out of it. The information that's going to be presented in each video, that's providing a baseline of information. It does not and it cannot replace further research. And every student is encouraged to consult as many sources as what they can get their hands on about the given topic on the week, so they can compare and contrast. There are different views, but as you contrast the different views, you will also see the core commonality that I referenced before. You'll see what is the general gist of something. And this will help flesh out your initial understanding of whatever concept we're discovering at the moment, and it also lays the groundwork for later discoveries, and as you go through your own meditations and journey of figuring out what does it specifically mean for you, what does it mean in practice, how is it going to work for you, do you agree with the concept at all? So keep that in mind. 5th suggestion is we have the Discord group, and that's really where the core conversation to do with these classes will take place. We have a text channel called Study Hall and a voice channel called Workshop, and these have been specifically set aside for discussions amongst participants in the class. There's also a channel that's I will be able to post in it as the admin, but no one else will, and that's just going to serve as just reference. If you're wanting to look up the link for a particular video class, that's where it's all going to be stored. And it's just to make it easier for you to find it if you want to later on. Now, in the course of the classes, I am going to ask questions at the end of each lesson, suggest certain exercises, or, just general suggestions, things for you to think about and chew on your own. However, no one is going to grade your homework, least of all me. If you never want to speak up and share anything, you absolutely do not have to. However, if you would like to, and there are benefits to kind of picking other people's brains and seeing different takes on things, if you would like to do that, we have these channels set aside. If you want to just ask what someone else is thinking about the topic of the week, or if you want to ask questions that are very specific to that week's class, you have a dedicated place to do so. And you'll be amongst other people who are going through the same classes as you. There might be people who decide, they've been practicing Wicca for a number of years, but this is just going to be a fun kind of refresher course. And also, it's just another take, because you're always interested in how someone chooses to present this religion once you're in it. You will may likely find that there are people there who have a lot of experience, who have a lot of spiritual maturity, and you might be able to benefit from that maturity, experience, and wisdom. So that's another reason to participate if you want to. But again, there's zero requirement to do so. Last, but not at all least, note-taking. This is strongly encouraged. Unless you've been blessed with a photographic memory, in which case I'm supremely jealous. I can't even imagine what that would be like. Taking notes about what you learn about Wicca, whether it's in the video classes or what you're reading in books, articles, everything that you might come in contact with, it's going to be handy for later reference. And sometimes a short pencil will serve you better than a long memory. There's a lot of information. Do not overload your brain unnecessarily. As time goes along, you'll be amazed how much you retain, how much you remember, how many things you understand. Because remember, it's not just about knowledge, it's about understanding, and from there grows wisdom. Another thing about notes is that the notes that you take now at the beginning of your journey, that may very well become part of your personal book of shadows and grimoire later on down the road. You don't have to jot down every single detail. I don't think that's really necessary, no matter if it's for the video classes or some other source. But making an outline of the main points will probably be useful to you. And from there, the main points, maybe a few other little supporting points, and then you have this reference, you have an outline, you have an idea that you can go back and analyze at your leisure. Now, if that style of note-taking is not really your jam, you might try keeping a journal and you're just writing down your overall impressions of each class and your other studies that you engage in. That could serve the purpose just as well. And if you have some other method of note-taking or memory retention, whatever it's going to help you, absolutely use it. Bring what works for you. Not everyone's brain works the same. I have a very strong left brain, very deeply analytical, very logical, very methodical. And the other side of my brain, well, it is very artistic, creative, and it's doing all kinds of wild, crazy, chaotic stuff. This is not this part of my brain that's actually going to help me retain information. This side is, and you may find that it's the exact opposite for you. Maybe sometimes expressing concepts or things that you're learning through artwork or through writing a poem, a song, whatever it is that works for you that's going to help information sink in, you should really tailor that for what's going to be working for you. You're an individual. No one knows you better than you know yourself. Make use of that knowledge and use it to your advantage. So that was just a few ideas that I hope will make the classes more useful to anyone who decides to take it. And we'll just see how this goes. I'll see you in another video.